Genesis 23. And Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a sojourner and a foreign resident among you. Give me a possession for a burial site among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. None of us will refuse you his burial sites for burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire for me to bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him, which is at the end of his field. For the full price let him give it to me in your presence, as a possession for a burial site. Now Ephron was sitting among the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, even of all who went in at the gate of his city, saying, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the sight of the sons of my people I give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If you will only please hear me, I will give the silver for the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, hear me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? So bury your dead. So Abraham heard Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, commercial standard. So Ephron's field, which was in Machpelah, which faced Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees which were in the field, that were within all the confines of its border, were deeded over to Abraham as purchased in the sight of the sons of Heth, before all who came in at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field in Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded over to Abraham for a possession for a burial site by the sons of Heth. Matthew 22. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again in parables, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to call those who had been called to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. Again he sent out other slaves, saying, Tell those who have been called, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fattened livestock are all butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went their way, one to his own farm, another to his business. And the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. But the king was enraged, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. Then he said to his slaves, The wedding is ready, but those who are called were not worthy. Go therefore to the main highways, and as many as you find there, call to the wedding feast. And those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both evil and good, and the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed in wedding clothes. And he said to him, Friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes? And the man was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and throw him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. Then the Pharisees went and took counsel together about how they might trap him in what he said. And they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are truthful and teach the way of God in truth, and defer to no one, for you are not partial to any. Therefore, tell us, what do you think? Is it lawful to give a tax to Caesar, or not? But Jesus, knowing their wickedness, said, Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? They said to him, Caesar's. Then he said to them, Therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And hearing this they marveled, and leaving him they went away. On that day some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother as next of kin shall marry his wife and raise up a seed for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers with us, and the first married and died, and having no seed, he left his wife to his brother. So also the second and the third, down to the 7th. And last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they had all married her. But Jesus answered and said to them, You are mistaken, not understanding the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But regarding the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together. And one of them, a scholar of the law, asked him a question, testing him, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. And the second is like it, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang the whole law and the prophets. Now while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, The son of David. He said to them, Then how does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand until I put your enemies beneath your feet? Therefore, if David calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor did anyone dare from that day on to ask him another question. Nehemiah 12. Now these are the priests and the Levites who came up with Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, Sariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Maluk, Hattush, Shechaniah, Rehum, Meremoth, Edu, Ginnethoi, Abijah, Mijamin, Madiah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, and Jorarib, and Jediah, Salu, Amok, Hilkiah, and Jediah. These were the heads of the priests and their relatives in the days of Jeshua. The Levites were Jeshua, Benui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah, who was over of the songs of thanksgiving, he and his brothers. Also Bakbukiah and Uni, their brothers, stood opposite them in keeping their responsibilities. Jeshua became the father of Jehoiakim, and Jehoiakim became the father of Eliashib, and Eliashib became the father of Joiada, and Joiada became the father of Jonathan, and Jonathan became the father of Jaddua. Now in the days of Jehoiakim, the priest and the heads of the fathers' households were, of Sariah, Mariah, of Jeremiah, Hananiah, of Ezra, Meshullam, of Amariah, Jehohanan, of Maluki, Jonathan, of Shebaniah, Joseph, of Haram, Adnah, of Marioth, Helkiah, of Edu, Zechariah, of Ginnethon, Meshullam, of Abijah, Zikri, of Miniamin, of Moadiah, Piltai, of Bilgah, Shemua, of Shemaiah, Jehoanathan, of Jehoram, Mattaniah, of Jediah, Uzi, of Saliah, Kaliah, of Amok, Eber, of Hilkiah, Hashabiah, of Jediah, Nethanel. As for the Levites, in the days of Eliashib, Joiada, and Johanan, and Jaddua, the heads of the fathers' households were written down. The priests were also in the reign of Darius the Persian. The sons of Levi, the heads of fathers' households, were written down in the book of the Chronicles, up to the days of Jehohanan, the son of Eliashib. The heads of the Levites were Hashabiah, Sherebiah, and Jeshua, the son of Kadmiel, with their brothers opposite them, to praise and give thanks, by the commandment of David the man of God, watch by watch. Mattaniah, Bakbukiah, Obadiah, Meshullam, Talmon, and Akub were gatekeepers keeping watch at the storerooms of the gates. They served in the days of Joachim the son of Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, in the days of Nehemiah, the governor, and of Ezra the priest and scribe. Now at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem they sought out the Levites from all their places, to bring them to Jerusalem, so that they might celebrate the dedication with gladness. with hymns of thanksgiving, and with songs to the accompaniment of cymbals, harps, and lyres. So the sons of the singers were gathered from the district around Jerusalem, and from the villages of the Netophathites, from Beth Gilgal, and from their fields in Geba and Asmaveth, for the singers had built themselves villages around Jerusalem. The priests and the Levites cleansed themselves. They also cleansed the people, the gates, and the wall. Then I had the leaders of Judah come up on top of the wall, and I had 2 great choirs of thanksgiving stand, the first proceeding to the right on top of the wall toward the dung gate. Hoshea and half of the leaders of Judah followed them, with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and some of the sons of the priests with trumpets, and Zechariah, the son of Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Mattaniah, the son of Micaiah, the son of Zakur, the son of Asaph and his relatives, Shemaiah, Azarel, Milalai, Gilalai, Mai, Nethanel, Judah, and Hanani, with the musical instruments of David, the man of God. And Ezra the scribe went before them. At the spring gate they went directly up the steps of the city of David by the stairway of the wall above the house of David to the water gate on the east. The second choir proceeded to the left, while I followed them with half of the people on the wall, above the tower of furnaces to the broad wall, and above the gate of Ephraim, by the old gate, by the fish gate, the tower of Hananel, and the tower of the 100, as far as the sheep gate, and they stood at the gate of the guard. Then the 2 choirs took their stand in the house of God. So did I, and half of the officials with me, and the priests, Eliakim, Messiah, Miniamin, Micaiah, Elioenai, Zechariah, and Hananiah with the trumpets, and Messiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzi, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. And the singers made their voices heard, with Jezariah their overseer. And on that day they offered great sacrifices, and were glad because God had given them great gladness. Even the women and children were glad, so that the gladness of Jerusalem was heard from afar. On that day men were also appointed over the chambers for the stores, the contributions, the firstfruits, and the tithes, to gather into them from the fields of the cities the portions required by the law for the priests and Levites. For Judah was glad over the priests and Levites who stood to minister. And they kept their responsibility given by their God, and the responsibility of cleansing, together with the singers and the gatekeepers, according to the commandment of David and his son Solomon. For in the days of David and Asaph in ancient times, there were chiefs of the singers, songs of praise and hymns of thanksgiving to God. So all Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and Nehemiah were giving the portions due the singers and the gatekeepers, as each day required, and set apart the holy portion for the Levites, and the Levites set apart the holy portion for the sons of Aaron. Acts 22. Men, brothers, and fathers, hear my defense which I now offer to you. And when they heard that he was addressing them in the Hebrew language, they became even quieter, and he said, I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but having been brought up in this city, having been instructed at the feet of Gamaliel, according to the strictness of the law of our fathers, being zealous for God just as you all are today, I persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering both men and women into prisons, as also the high priest and all the council of the elders can testify. From them I also received letters to the brothers, and started off for Damascus in order to bring even those who were there to Jerusalem as prisoners to be punished. But it happened that as I was on my way, approaching Damascus about noontime, a very bright light suddenly flashed from heaven all around me, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And I answered, Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus the Nazarene, whom you are persecuting. And those who were with me beheld the light, to be sure, but did not understand the voice of the one who was speaking to me. And I said, What should I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, Rise up and go on into Damascus, and there you will be told of all that has been determined for you to do. But since I could not see because of the glory of that light, being led by the hand by those who were with me, I came into Damascus. Now a certain Ananias, a man who was devout by the standard of the law, and well spoken of by all the Jews who lived there, came to me, and standing near me said to me, Brother Saul, regain your sight. And at that very hour I regained my sight and saw him. And he said, The God of our fathers has appointed you to know his will, and to see the righteous one, and to hear a voice from his mouth. For you will be a witness for him to all men of what you have seen and heard. Now why do you delay? Rise up and be baptized, and wash away your sins, calling on his name. Now it happened when I returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple, that I fell into a trance. And I saw him saying to me, Hurry and get out of Jerusalem quickly, because they will not accept your witness about me. And I said, Lord, they themselves understand that in one synagogue after another I used to imprison and beat those who believed in you. And when the blood of your witness Stephen was being shed, I also was standing by approving, and guarding the garments of those who were slaying him. And he said to me, Go, for I will send you far away to the Gentiles. And they were listening to him up to this statement, and then they raised their voices and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for he should not be allowed to live. And as they were crying out and throwing off their garments and tossing dust into the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks, stating that he should be examined by flogging, so that he might find out the reason why they were shouting against him that way. But when they stretched him out with leather straps, Paul said to the centurion who was standing by, Is it lawful for you to flog a man who is a Roman and uncondemned? And when the centurion heard this, he went to the commander and reported to him, saying, What are you about to do? For this man is a Roman. And the commander came and said to him, Tell me, are you a Roman? And he said, Yes. And the commander answered, I acquired this citizenship with a large sum of money. And Paul said, But I have been born a citizen. Therefore those who were about to examine him immediately withdrew from him, and the commander also was afraid when he learned that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. But on the next day, wishing to know for certain why he had been accused by the Jews, he released him and ordered the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin to come together, and brought Paul down and set him before them.